7th SADC Summit is currently underway, and our reporter there, Patricia Visagie, is standing by.
Well, thank you so much for joining us once again for the 37th SADC Summit that is taking place here in the heart of Pretoria. We continue to delve into the issues that are topping the agenda here as the leaders in the region try to find long-lasting solutions for a better and stronger SADC body that will better the lives of the millions of people in this region. And we now take our focus to Mauritius, and I'm joined by Usha Dwarke Buddy. I hope I have pronounced your surname correctly there. It's been a long week for some of you who have been here, and you from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Office, of course, dealing with a lot of the issues that go to the heart of the summit, as you are part of the, of course, foreign delegation. For you, how's the summit been?
I think it's a very interesting summit because if you look at the number of meetings that we are having beyond the summit itself, we're having side meetings with delegations. I think that brings a lot to the summit itself, beyond the summit. But if you look at the summit and the core work that we're supposed to do, you will find it's been interesting to look at the achievements of SADC this year, what is being planned for next year as a theme, and then to take stock of progress on certain continental issues, whether it's the free trade area or continental free trade area or the tripartite initiative, to see what else we could be doing together. But I mean, it's a big question in the sense of what is the summit all about. It's 75 recommendations, 75 decisions being taken, of which I would like to believe that some core 15 or 20 would have a direct impact on our countries and our economies. This morning, President Zuma spoke, for example, about the need for energy, the growing needs for energy. We spoke about climate change. We spoke about water, the importance of utilities, and how the region can cooperate better in that direction. Now, what has been the contribution of Mauritius so far? Our Secretary for Foreign Affairs, leading the delegation, I requested that SADC should now come up with a matrix highlighting the main projects underway in SADC. It's there in the report. But I think a matrix would help all countries understand a little better the kind of progress we're making on not only individual projects, but also the recommendations we're making to ourselves, how we follow up on those recommendations.
Now, long list of recommendations, you said 75. But what are the most important ones? Which ones are a priority, an immediate priority? Of course, we would understand that stability in the region is perhaps top of the agenda. Nothing can happen if we don't have stability, if we don't have peace and security among ourselves. But apart from the issue on peace and security, what else is top of the agenda among that 75 recommendations?
Well, certainly peace and security, I think, is the foundation. Because without that foundation, you cannot grow. But beyond that, I think in most of the statements we've heard so far, the focus is on how we can cooperate better to address many of the sustainable development goals, amongst which energy, for example, amongst which making use of resources, and then of course global value chains. How does Africa integrate the global value chains? I think these are important elements. But just allow me to add, for example, Mauritius has requested to make a statement tomorrow on the question of maritime security. Now, this may not seem of direct impact to our countries and economies, but it is, because the question that we want to address is the question of human and drug trafficking. Why is it important? Because we're wasting a lot of our resources trying to handle the nexus between narcotics, terrorism, and human trafficking. This is very important. What we discovered in Mauritius is that we don't have a platform where we can exchange information in the region. So since we're presiding the Indian Ocean Commission, we decided to create a synergy with the United Nations Office on Crime and Drugs. So they're coming to help us to create that platform so that our intelligence services can share such information at the level of the Indian Ocean. And I do believe that we should be doing the same thing for SADC, because that will help us create sounder economies. The same way that we stop piracy, I think if we collaborate well, we may not be able to eradicate it completely, but certainly I think have a dampening effect on what is happening right now.
Let's take a look at the year that was under the leadership of Swaziland, of course, that held the chairmanship for SADC up to today when South Africa took over.
Yes.
What were some of the highlights? What were some of the achievements that the body has reached, and maybe some of the points that you did not make so much progress on?
Well, I'll talk about 2 points that I think will progress as we go along, but which was the initiative of Swaziland. That's the University of Transformation. The university that's supposed to reach out to all the region, where we can actually develop modern ways of thinking, how to take our countries forward. I think that's a very important initiative, understanding the value of regional integration by having that university. The second thing that I think was important is advancing the discussions on the SADC that we want. What kind of SADC do we want? Creating a matrix may seem a simple matter, but as from the moment you create a matrix, you become accountable on what you are doing, because you immediately see how far you're progressing or not progressing. Now, if I take one recommendation from Swaziland, it's recommendation 66. I think on that one we have not made progress, and I think we should do it now. And this concerns our discussions on post-Cotonou. You know, after the EPA agreements, we'll be having the post-Cotonou agreement to be formulated. One of the Sherpas of the European Union, Mr. Pascal Lamy, has been in town consulting individual delegations on their perspectives. This morning I spoke to the Secretary General of COMESA, and I asked him, where are we with the evolution or the evolving of a common position? And he reassured me that they're doing a lot of work on this. Now, I need to see SADC also start evolving a common position, because the time is very short, and in November in Brussels there'll be a workshop on this. Otherwise we might be left out of the race.
Yeah. The body also seemed to have lost some level of confidence and trust among the citizens in the region. We saw the protests outside earlier, where a lot of people in the region from different countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Swaziland and DRC, gathered and they were unhappy with certain points. Some even criticized the body, saying that it is just a talk shop. SADC has become insignificant. It is failing to actually fully represent the people in the region and better their lives. What do you have to say to that?
I would say that it just goes to show that we have a more and more vibrant civil society. I think that we didn't have as much interest in SADC matters previously, and I think we should be glad of this interest in the SADC matters, because it will keep SADC on its toes, precisely. Now, whether SADC was meant to respond to all the aspirations of the people of the region, I do not know. But I'll give you one example of something very concrete for the region. We have been trying to develop a SADC of free movement. Mauritius and Seychelles and Zimbabwe are the 3 countries which have removed visa restrictions for all SADC countries. This time we were faced with a matrix where we were able to see which countries still have a lot of restrictions. And for example, immediately Mauritius started discussing with Angola, saying, but we allow you in, why can't we come in to be given visas upon arrival? I think that would be in the benefit of the people of the region to have, for example, a sort of free movement zone. We're getting there. It takes time. It takes some kind of psychological concern as well, because even our citizens, sometimes they worry about being overrun with other people coming from overseas. So I think we need to give time to time, as we say. It will happen.
And as leaders, you're often accused of dictatorship. You don't want to hand over power. The people who gathered again outside were making some of those remarks. They were referring to the DRC, for instance, saying that they want a new leader, some of them. And SADC as a body, they feel, has not played a very strong role in ensuring that for the people of the DRC. Would you agree with them, or maybe bring them into the picture as to what is happening? And maybe if you have a way to convince them that SADC is working on that, what would you say?
I think the organ has been doing some very good work. Secondly, if you will note in the region, most of the elections recently held, there's one in Angola on the 23rd, so far the elections have been considered free and fair. So who are we to go and contest when international observers have said they're free and fair? On the other hand, and this is perhaps where I agree with protesters, if we believe or we feel that in certain countries democratic principles are not being upheld the manner they should have been, if we feel that human rights are being violated, or if we feel that human rights could be improved, I really believe that we, as SADC and as individual member states, have a responsibility to share with each other real concerns. You do not wish to embarrass a head of state, but sometimes you wish to talk to them privately, and this is where the chairman of the organ and the chairman of SADC can actually do this mediation role. If you look at West Africa earlier this year, and we all saw the situation that evolved, the role played by Mauritania, for example, in the region to maintain democracy and respect for democracy, I think was greatly saluted. I think SADC also could develop that kind of moral stature whereby we can actually impress upon people in the region to do certain things.
Certainly. Thank you so much for joining us there. Mrs. Usha Dwarka Kena Abadi, all the way from Mauritius, they're sharing her thoughts about the summit that has started since the 10th of August and as I said earlier, entering its second last session before we wrap up the summit here in Pretoria. And of course, again, the highlight being that if we want to see the summit, rather the SADC that we want, then everybody's participation and cooperation is needed. For now, let's toss back to the studio.
And many thanks once again to our reporter there, Patricia Visagie, bringing us to speed with what's happening at the 37th SADC Summit currently underway in Pretoria.